Hello guys, how are you? This is gonna be finally your last video of this series of explanations for your level. We are going to cover present perfect, no, past perfect, sorry, past perfect, vocabulary, and some narrative tenses, okay? It's gonna be quite easy, maybe a little bit longer than the others, we'll see, okay? So I will start sharing with you. This is gonna be your fourth and final class. So let's take a look. All right, so as I told you, it's vocabulary, past perfect, and narrative tenses, okay? Perfect is one of the most advanced tenses that you can get in English. And we normally use past perfect with third conditional and past models. And past models is also very advanced, okay? But after past perfect, there are not really new tenses to cover. It's just like combination of tenses and the correct use of these, okay? So it's a good topic to cover. Now, vocabulary, you've got pages 115 and 124. And for grammar, and you can check on page 126, which is normal student book pages, and the explanation on the back on page 164. So as previously mentioned, we will start with the pronunciation of this vocabulary. I think you can find it on page 115. Let me take a look. Okay. Yeah, that's correct. It is vocabulary personal characteristics. I'm just going to check the pronunciation with you, and there are three adjectives are either important to know, very common, or the vocabulary or the translation is not exactly as it looks in Spanish, which is very similar. Let's practice pronunciation first. So just repeat after me. Affectionate, ambitious, hardworking, honest, open. I suppose it's open-minded or something. No, it's just open. Okay, so open to new ideas, open to new perspectives, something like that. That maybe that open. Organized, patient, sensitive, and sociable. The important ones are easygoing, sympathetic, and reliable. Um, Patient can be an adjective that you wait for other people. You're waiting there, you're patient, and could also be a noun. So when you go to the hospital, the person that is hospitalized is a patient, is a person. Sensitive, we have two words in English. Sensitive is the easy one, okay? When you say sensitive, is that you have emotions, that you understand other people, that you could cry when you watch movies, that you understand, or maybe you are sensitive. It's like somebody tells you something and you can get angry, can be sad, can start to cry, stuff like that. That is the meaning of sensitive, okay? Now, so the ones that are important, easygoing is easy, but if you don't know it, maybe, what is this now? I have written the definition of these adjectives. Is somebody who is relaxed and not easily upset or worried. So somebody who doesn't normally get angry is somebody easygoing. Ah, he's a relaxed person. He's peace and love, no, something like that. That's normally easygoing. It's relaxed person, calm person. It's a positive adjective. It's a positive um, description or personality. Now, in the case of sympathetic, this is the most important, I think. Let's see the definition. It is used to describe someone who shows, especially by what they say, that they understand and care about someone else's suffering. Okay, we have an example. He was very sympathetic about my problem. So in that case, we use sympathetic to mean somebody who understands what you are going through. Like, for example, if somebody dies in your family, and in my case, my father and my mother and my grandparents, for example, haven't died, I don't really know how it feels, but I can understand that you are suffering, that you have pain, okay? It's more connected to empathy. You are empathetic, is similar to sympathetic, okay? You feel or you understand other person's feelings, even if you haven't experienced them. Don't confuse it with the word in Spanish, um, simpático. That word is kind. Okay, so it's a false cognate. It's a different word. So be careful when using sympathetic. It's when you understand other people's feelings. And continuing, you've got reliable. Pronunciation is difficult sometimes. Reliable. The antonym is unreliable. Okay, so both are pronounced in a similar way. Reliable and reliable. Okay, so the meaning of reliable is someone or something that is reliable, can be trusted, or believe. You can believe in that person because he, she, or it works or behaves well in the way you expect. Okay, it's very confusing. The meaning is that it's trustworthy. The problem with this word is that the synonym is also complicated. Trust. I trust you. I believe in you. So trustworthy. So worth. Okay, sorry, worth. So trustworthy is somebody that you can trust. Okay, somebody that you can believe. Okay. So for example, when you say, oh, he is very reliable because he said he would come to the party and he came. Okay. Oh, and Renata is very reliable. She said that she would bring a cake on for the party and she brought the cake. So in that case is when you use something and you say something and you do it, that's reliable. I can trust, I can believe in you. That's the meaning of reliable. Okay, so remember pronunciation and the word is, it's a difficult word, I think, but it appears a lot, especially in your books, okay? Now, let's take a look at other pieces of vocabulary. So you've got page 124. It says, well, it's my recommendation. I'm not going to check it with you, but please check it on Google Images. I think it would be very practical for this set of words. It says, make sure you find the British English variation, especially for clothes and for money. For some reason, American English and British English have different words in some cases, not in many, but especially for clothes. No? Right now we're talking about money. So you've got an example, a purse. In British English, this is a purse, okay? So it's like a very small bag where people can put their coins. And in American English, a purse is more like a handbag. It's also for ladies. In purse, in British could be for both, but for American it's usually for ladies. So it's like a handbag for ladies, okay? And this is British. So you can type on Google Images and you can find the words bank notes and coins and everything. Check it there, please. If you were to have any question, contact me and I will clarify that to you. Now, and another exercise with vocabulary is on page 126. Different, yes, 126. I'm just going to focus on these three verbs. Actually, only these two appear on the book, but I want to show you an extra one. Inherit, well, inherit is easy. When somebody dies in your family, somebody who is rich, and then you can get the money from them. You can get a house, you can get a car, you can get money. You inherit some money. So it's when you receive money from somebody who died, okay? Now, in the case of borrow and lend, if you are not from Merida, this is easy for you. Borrow is tomar prestado and lend is prestar or dar prestado, okay? If you are from Yucatan or Merida, sometimes we don't use it correctly. So the meaning of borrow is when you receive something. Let's say this cell phone is from my friend. So I tell my friend, can I borrow your cell phone? It means, can I take your cell phone? Oh, yeah, yes, you can take it. You can borrow the cell phone. And then if you are talking about somebody else and you're going to give another person one object, for example. So for example, teacher, do you have scissors? Oh, yes, I do. So I, the teacher, I'm going to lend you the scissors. I'm going to give you the scissors. Depending on the way you use the pronouns I, you, he, to you, my student, you can say the same thing with the two verbs. For example, my student borrowed the scissors. So my student took the scissors, or I lent the scissors to my student, okay? So you can say both of the, I mean, you can express the idea with both of the verbs, but you have to be careful. The past and past participle of borrow is borrowed, is regular, and the past simple and past participle of lent is with T, like spent, 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 okay? So careful with that conjugation. This one is irregular and borrow is regular, no big deal. So that's it, inherit, borrow, and lend, and check the other words, but these are the most important. And finally, the last grammar point is going to be past perfect. and a little bit of narrative tenses. And past perfect, let's focus to this tense. These are the structures for affirmative, negative, and interrogative. And as you can see, you're going to be using had. If you are good like comparing grammar, it's like present perfect, but now it's past. So in present perfect, have or has is present, but in past perfect, had is in past. Okay, so if you want to memorize the names, it does help to understand. So had, okay, and your verb needs to be in past participle again. Okay, so it's subject had plus past perfect, past participle the. So together, these two expressions, you get past perfect. Okay, so the names can be confusing in this case. Now, negative, you have subject, then you have hadn't, or the extended form had not, but hadn't is very common, and your verb in past participle. And for the interrogative, you have to use had plus subject plus verb in past participle plus your complement. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the usage. Why does it exist? When do we use it? You've got, we use to indicate something and that happened before, past perfect, another event in the past, usually past simple or continuous. It's complicated. I think that is missing here. And now here, something that happened before, sorry, goes here. Now, let's see an example. I had seen that movie before. It's not very common to use past perfect alone, okay? We usually use with other tenses, normally past simple and past continuous, but this sentence sounds pretty good, no? I had seen that movie before. The complete sentence could be, I had seen that movie before we came here. I had seen that movie before you show it to me on Netflix, something like that, okay? The second one is a good example. She hadn't finished the exam when the teacher asked for it. No? So we are talking about two events in the past. In this case, the teacher asked for it, but she hadn't finished, so it has not completed. So maybe she wouldn't get all of the points. Another example, it could be a question. Not very common, but it could be. Had she obtained her license before she started driving? Okay, so that would be something. Did it happen first, obtain the license before driving, or it was the other way around? If it was the other way around, it's illegal, or she could be in trouble now. Let's see other examples now. This is much clearer. I had studied I had studied 2 years of kindergarten, yes, with T in English, kindergarten, when I started elementary school. This is a very good example. First, you finish your kindergarten, you graduated, you ended, and then you started elementary school. That's the normal order of things. Actually, these sentences are about me. These ones are about me, okay? So yes, I just studied 2 years and then I started elementary school. I had never had a class in English when I started university. That's another fact. Now, so I started English in middle school and then in high school, but my classes were in Spanish. Obviously, the teachers sometimes made a question in English or said a comment in English, but the classes were practically in Spanish. So when I started university, it was completely in English, completely because the teacher was British, but fortunately, I understood what she was saying because I had a lot of vocabulary, a lot of studying along the years. So this is something real, and it's a good example of past perfect. Okay. Other examples: he hadn't returned to Mexico when the virus started to spread, and also to infect other people. Okay. This is a good example for the current issues right now. And had she submitted her learning activity before quiz one? Yes, she had. No, she hadn't. So normally I check all of your learning activities before we take quiz one and all of the other learning activities before quiz number two, okay? So that would be another real example of that. That's it for past perfect. As I told you, it normally goes with another past tense, normally past simple or past continuous. And past perfect happen first, okay? If it's affirmative. If it's negative, it started complicated. But if it's affirmative, it normally. I had lunch before my father arrived with some food. Now, so first I had lunch and then my father arrived with food. I couldn't eat it because I had already had lunch, okay? That's it. Now, let's start take translation, just in case, una traducción. I had studied in 2 years of kindergarten. Ya había estudiado o yo había estudiado 2 años de kinder cuando comencé la primaria. And I had never had a class in English when I started university. Nunca había tenido, so had is possible, had is auxiliary, and the second had is your verb. Yo nunca había tenido una clase en inglés cuando comencé la universidad. Okay, so that will be the appropriate translation. Now, let's move on. Narrative tenses. So now that you have studied past perfect, you have completed most of the narrative tenses we use in English, which are past simple, past continuous, and past perfect, okay? When native speakers are talking about something in the past, they use these tenses. Sometimes they use would as well. You will study it on intermediate one. But it's very common that they just use simple past, okay, or past simple. It's very common that they focus on that. Sometimes they use past perfect, but it's not always perfectly used. And since we are not native and we are learning the language right now, if you manage to use it correctly, it will be fantastic, okay? But it happens that they don't use it as it's supposed to be used, just like Spanish speakers don't use the tenses as it's expected to be used, all right? So I have written a very brief summary of Titanic. I think it's a good one. It includes everything that happened in the movie and in a short time length, okay? So let's identify which past tenses I use. The movie starts when Jack was playing poker with some friends and won a ticket to the Titanic. Okay, so this cruise, this ship. All social classes were traveling together in that ship. He met Rose and they fell in love. Rose was expected to marry a rich guy. Jack had met Rose's family, but of course, they didn't accept him because they knew he didn't belong to her social class. Okay, here is a mistake, or to their families, or to Rose's, to her social class. Here we have the first past perfect. As I told you, it has to be used in very specific occasions. The Titanic crashed against an iceberg. Jack died to the freezing temperature of the ocean, but Rose survived because she was lying on a floating door that Jack had managed to get her on. Okay, so in this case, we use past perfect again. And I had to force the sentence so we could include past perfect, okay? Because we could have said all of that in simple past or past simple, okay? So this is an example of narrative tenses. This is what you are expected to be able to use. The shorter the sentences you make, the easier it's going to be for you to express your ideas. For example, yesterday I went to the bank, period. I got some money, period. Then I went to the supermarket, period. I met a friend, period. I had met that friend in elementary school 10 years ago, period. Then I returned home, period. I cook lunch, period. I ate it, watched a movie, and then took a nap, okay? So if you make your sentences simple, it's going to be much easier for you to express your ideas because you can use past simple. But if you want to sound a little bit better, more professional, or more advanced, well, that's the case when we start using other tenses along with past simple, okay? So that's it, guys. I have done my part. Now your task is to complete your learning activities, to study a lot, and maybe ask for an appointment to talk to me on Skype or Facebook, maybe as a group, maybe alone. Think of a platform where we can talk, have a conference on real time, whatever you want. Let me know and I will be available for you, okay, until April the 5th, which I think is when vacations officially starts, okay? So thanks a lot, guys, for your attention. Goodbye. Study a lot. Bye-bye.